Hello, Sam here, and I am submitting my optional assignment, which is a critical appraisal of one of the cold effects trials. The one that I chose to look at was the McElhaney et al., Janet McElhaney and Andrew Seymour, etc. Anyway, so I'm going through the critical appraisal of randomized controlled trial template that we were given again for this. So what are the PICOs? The P in this case is influenza vaccinated community dwelling seniors over 65 years of age. Now the I, or intervention, is CVT-E002, or cold effects, as I'm going to refer to it from here on in. And this is administered in 400 milligrams per day and 800 milligrams per day. The comparator is a placebo of microcrystalline cellulose, and there are various outcomes. The primary endpoint is incidence of acute respiratory illness, referred to as lab-confirmed clinical upper respiratory infections, or URIs as I'm going to call them, and this was assessed over a 6-month study period. Clinical infection was defined by the presence of symptoms. Now, I'm assuming that both lab-confirmed and clinical measures must occur together in order to get a lab-confirmed clinical URI, but the paper isn't specific enough about this. I would like to see more information about that. But aside from that, the secondary endpoint is self-reported URI as defined by Jackson criteria, as well as the safety of cold effects. And the study design is a multi-centered, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled 3-arm trial. So, a little lengthy, but it's good. So the next question is, are the results valid? And this refers to internal validity. And related to that is a question of, did the groups start the trial balanced? So was it randomized, truly randomized? They weren't hugely specific and detailed about the randomization procedure, but it seems so. It seems as though they got an independent company to do the randomization, and I'm satisfied that this was a truly randomized trial. So I give it a yes on that. Now, was the randomization concealed? I also give this question a yes because they made no indication that they had any knowledge of where the patients were going to be randomized to. And was there an intention to treat? Now, this is a little bit concerning, and I gave this a no, because although they did an intention to treat analysis, they also presented the per protocol analysis, but they focused on it in order to conclude benefit from cold effects, so that's a little bit concerning. So last question here is that the baseline characteristics end up similar, and referring to the table 1. Now, it seems so. This particular table 1 doesn't give us p-values, but as we discussed in the last class, this is all right because if randomization was truly done in the way it was intended, this would dictate that any observed statistical differences would be due to chance alone, so there's no sense in reporting the p-values. So I'm going to conclude that yes, they were the baseline characteristics were similar, and overall, the group started balanced, aside from the per protocol analysis. So the next question is, did the groups remain balanced? Now, was there blinded allocation and ascertainment of outcomes? So for the patients, yes, they were blinded, and this was assessed as well through surveys to find out which drug, whether placebo or which dosage the patients thought they got, so I'm satisfied with that. And as far as I can tell, the clinicians and the assessors were blinded as well, including, I'd like to mention, the statistical analysis person, which is really important as well. So I give them a yes on blinding. That was very well done. And was the follow-up complete? In this case, yes. I even went to check the clinicaltrials.gov just to make sure that it hadn't ended early, and it didn't say that it had. So I'm okay that the follow-up was complete, and I can conclude that the groups did remain balanced after the study started. So, the next question, are the results important? And by that I mean, what is the magnitude and precision of the effect? Now, this is where this trial starts to fall apart in my mind, because the magnitude is not very good. For the intention to treat population, I couldn't find any significant findings. And for the per protocol population, there are some findings that are significant, but it's important to note that when we use the per protocol population for analysis, we lose the benefits of randomization, which is really important. So in that sense, the intention to treat analysis is more important than the protocol. So we can conclude that while there's a trend towards lower URIs as the dosage of cold effects increases, there are no significant findings in this sense. So an interesting point that I noted while looking at this, though, while looking at the table, is that there are so many more endpoints in the per protocol analysis than there are in the intention to treat. Like, it seems like it's broken down a lot and it's fleshed out more, so I'm a little bit confused about why this is, given that it wasn't strictly dictated either here or on the clinical trials registry. So that unfortunately makes me a little bit concerned that maybe they just broke up their endpoints and did more of a subgroup analysis because they knew it was going to be significant for the per protocol population. Because one would think that what you would look at in the per protocol, you would also look at in the intention to treat. So I'm going to say that unfortunately the magnitude and precision of this effect is not very good overall. So are the results applicable? And this is related to external validity. Is there any good reason to say these results do not apply to my patients? It seems as though the patients were randomly sampled. They detail this a little bit, not too much, but they say that flyers were distributed at flu shot clinics and at community centers. This seems reasonable to me only because they had such specific inclusion and exclusion criteria. So they wanted community-dwelling seniors, and that's why they would have gone to community centers. They wanted ones who had been vaccinated for influenza, and so that would be the reason for looking at flu shot clinics, although this does leave us open to some people preferentially participating over others, which is problematic. I think this is a reasonable and realistic way to achieve random sampling, so I think that these results are generally applicable. And the last question is, are the results worth it? And by that I mean, are the benefits of cold effects worth the risks and the costs? Now for this I noted that this was a two-tailed test, and as such, even though there's no evidence that it does much good, there's also no evidence that it does harm either. So additionally, I noted that there are no significant difference in adverse effects, either serious or non-serious. So therefore, although there are no significant benefits in the intention to treat population, I don't think it would be completely unreasonable to look at the per protocol group and conclude that it may do some good. So that being said, it's not significant enough that I would recommend it, to make a long answer short, but if my patients wanted to take it and I thought there might be a placebo effect involved, I wouldn't advise them not to, given the two-tailed nature. So anyway, so my overall conclusion is that this trial it was pretty well done, just didn't come up with many significant findings. So, and they were a little spun in the end in the way they presented it, but overall, those were my thoughts. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to receiving your feedback on this.